My name's Dara Hoffman. I'm an assistant professor in the School of Information, as well as the program coordinator for the Master of Archives and Records Administration. But most relevant today, I am part of the CIRCLE team. CIRCLE, it stands for Cross-Campus Interdisciplinary Responsible Computing Learning Experiences. And we were really just blessed to receive a Responsible Computing Challenge grant from the Mozilla Foundation and several other funders to put together responsible computing education for the whole of SJSU, because as you guys probably know, we are Silicon Valley's only public university, and there's so much incredible work that's being done on campus from our, first year undergrads all the way up through the amazing research our faculty is doing. Yeah. And so we've been blessed to have the opportunity to put together everything from new courses to revised syllabi to faculty training, student training, and these events where we've been able to bring speakers ranging from the language archivist of the Cherokee Nation to Alex Hanna from the Distributed AI Research DARE. What do they call themselves, Vic?
DARE, distributed
DARE.
Yeah.
Yes. Which is a AI think tank. And so we're really fortunate to be able to bring these wonderful resources to our campus. And today we have a panel consisting of Dr. Nada Attar from the Department of Computer Science, Dr. Michelle Villagran from the School of Information, and Dr. Kathy Harris from the College of Humanities and Arts, talking about the role of the academic institution in responsible computing. And our wonderful student assistant from the project, Christy Barlas, is going to be our moderator. And so with that, I will hand it over to our speakers. Thank you all for joining us today.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for this very unconventional discussion panel. The topic for today is, what is the role of academic institutions in responsible computing? And to start off with, I want to describe what responsible computing is, as it was defined by the Responsible Computing Consortium. And that was created by members of IBM and Dell. And they define it as a systematic approach to how we interact with technology and how we think about technology and its impact on people and the planet. And here at CIRCLE, we like to include the idea that cultural competence is an aspect of responsible computing. And cultural competence is the practice of really honoring diverse cultural value and knowledge. So when we are going to continue talking about responsible computing in this panel, this is the definition that we mean. So with that, to start out with, let's ask Nada to start out with. What does responsible computing mean to you, and what does it look like in a real world scenario?
So for me, responsible computing is more to create, ethical, computing, and also integrated in the coursework, and to try to educate, people about, the privacy, about the issues of bias, and to create a whole new environment that is aware of how to develop technologies, but also be mindful of ethics and computer.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Kathy, do you want to add anything?
Yes. Hi, I'm Kathy Harris. Hi online. Hi, everybody out in the audience as well. Thanks for joining us. I'm just sort of an interloper here as a humanist. And you might ask, why is a humanist here? How many of y'all are from or have taken a class with humanities and arts? Philosophy, literature, quite a few. What kind of majors are y'all? Are you mainly in computer science and engineering and business? Are there any H&A majors here today? Loud and proud, man. Yeah.
Advertising, we're under this college, but then under the James is like the middleman.
You're mass comm, so your place is here too. So thank you for coming. I'm always interested in who's here in terms of our students and our faculty. And one thing that I always say, and I wrote this down today, is that when we talk about the humanities and integrating it with technology, we're not just talking about the humanists being the ethicists, being the police, slowing down innovation, as we've been told before at some of these companies. What we're looking for instead is to integrate a sense of belonging for everybody. And as Christy said, that cultural competency, what does that actually mean? And how can we see that come forth? And the other thing that I think we should always talk about is how do we equip you to go to your super fancy Google Jobs or NVIDIA or anywhere else that you aspire to? How do we equip you to have these difficult conversations through productive disagreement with your team members, with your manager? How do we equip you to be the manager, to be the thought leader, and bring these kinds of ethics and this cultural competency to it? So that's what I think of when I think about responsible computing. And also, I would like to see all students working together and across the boundaries of disciplines, not just necessarily working with all engineers in one class taught by one humanist professor. Michelle, do you have more to add?
I have 2 pages, but I'm not going to. I just came from another event and I'm feeling under the weather. So, to me, and so the reason why I'm here and my role on the grant is I'm the cultural competence, cultural humility expert. And so I'm coming at this from kind of that cultural competence lens. And so for me, it's about being socially responsible. We all play a role in being socially responsible, no matter if you're a student, staff, even as a consumer. I think the actual putting into practice, though, it's about, and Christy mentioned this, about honoring your diverse differences, but also similarities and what brings us together. And if we look to scholarship, particularly in social science and even behavioral science, identifying the ways that the technologies are interacting with and affect people. They affect all of us. I don't think anybody can raise their hand here or on Zoom and say that technology does not affect you in one way or the other, whether it's in your personal or professional life. But also it's those interactions. So there's the interactions with the technology, but then there's the people interactions on the side of how people are behind the scenes programming, developing these new technologies. And then there's the impact on the community. So ethical issues arise at personal levels. We all have faced some ethical dilemma at one point or another. For communities, and we're seeing that right now in our world today and even on our campuses, and even in computing research, and when you think about technology and the impact it has on particular people, what's the impact on a BIPOC person? What's the impact, because I'm Latina, what's the impact that technology might have on me? Maybe later on, maybe I have a negative interaction, and then I don't want to encounter or deal with law enforcement, for example. So addressing diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging within these computing and technology aspects is important. And I think for me, the difficult part is really addressing the actual practice. So how can we all become socially responsible and also become responsible computing individuals, but incorporating both, our own ethical values, our own ethical standpoint, also taking into consideration the interactions with the technologies, but then the impact on the communities. So it's full circle. It's not siloed or separated. And there are some examples thinking about culturally responsive practices, also thinking about culturally situated design tools. I won't go into those depths of detail, but there is a need for the conversation and for cultural competence to really be a big part of responsible computing.
And then maybe we could. And so then thinking about because I think responsible computing is so abstractly seen nowadays, this idea of technology ethics, and then students get into these classes, these higher level classes where technology ethics is taught. It's not really introduced in introductory programming courses. And so then people who have committed to the major, or they said, I want to work in this field, get to learn about what technology ethics look like. But in terms of what is the practice of responsible computing? Can you provide a real world scenario? Maybe we'll start with Nada.
So a real scenario is is when we educate our students and teach them about responsible computing, and then when they go to industry and to these companies, we want them to make sure that they are not just following what the companies and the industry is telling them, but to think about the impact of what technology they are developing and giving to the world. Because now we've seen that, AI have been used to abuse, the ethical and the ethical AI in so many levels. And we've seen how there is surveillance without any respect to privacy of the people. And also that not only that they capture people's camera, but they can also now go into their phones and it can classify their conversation. And it does that poorly without any high accuracy. And it creates a lot of impacts. And whatever happens in one society, when it's unethically used AI, it can affect other peoples everywhere around the world. Because now, what can we do if AI is used in war or in creating massive weapon technology? And then what are we going to do? Maybe the nuclear bomb doesn't make sense anymore because we can kill massive people with just the AI. But then who is doing this technology are those who were students one day at the colleges, and then they go to companies and they just do what it's told to them. So they need to be more careful about what they learn. And one of the problems is that we don't have the diversity in computer science, not in faculty and not in students, to make sure that this technology won't be used unethically. So one of the things is we need now to think about the resources that we have as faculty. What resources we have, what kind of faculty development that we can afford to faculty. So it's not only to, improve, our, ways of teaching, but also the way that we are thinking. And also, as long as the computer science is not diverse and all the technology and STEM majors are not diverse in terms of students or faculty, teaching responsible computing would be so difficult, especially now that the speed of AI technology is moving way beyond a way that we can solve these problems.
So as the humanist, I have a story to tell. I've been involved with digital and tech through digital humanities for about 20 years here at San Jose State. And I'm currently the director of public programming for the College of H&A. But I'm also a faculty member of digital humanities and literature. And one of the things that I've always been involved in with digital humanities is trying to figure out how can the humanities use and leverage developing an innovative tech in order to inquire about the human condition even further. So about 15 years ago, I was invited to the New York Public Library to take part of an NEH grant. And I was the digital archivist on the project. And the grant was to map Marcel Marceau's dance movements. And that was through digital mapping. And it was very early. It was similar to augmented reality where they wanted to map how he moves. Because once somebody like Marcel Marceau dies, or any other dance company or great luminary, you lose that connection to that cultural resonance. So as they were mapping his movements, they thought, I wonder what happens when dancers do his moves. And so they brought in a neurologist and actually were able to visualize what happens to the human brain when you do movement like dancing and different kinds of cultural dancing as well. And it was very illuminating. So Ohio State University got the NEH grant to do this, and it wasn't enough money because, let's face it, the humanities is not funded enough ever. We need those big NSF, NIH $1 million grants. So they got a grant from an unknown source, brought us all together and said, please not only map what's happening in their brains, but what their faces look like when they make certain movements. So this is beyond what Marcel Marceau was actually asking to be done. They had all these luminaries in terms of choreographers from New York City sitting in the room, and we were all talking, how do we annotate this? How do we articulate it? How do we look at all the dancers and turn them into these visualizations? And we finished it and we felt very proud of ourselves. But when we left, and a year later, the white paper was released, guess who funded that Can anybody take a big fat wild guess?
DARPA.
Not DARPA. It does start with a D. Somebody insidious. It's the Department of Defense with the United States federal government. So you know what they were going to do with this technology? They wanted to map who was an enemy. And it was supposed to be in foreign countries, not in the US, but the Department of Defense also has purview in the United States. So they were going to hand over everything to the CIA and the FBI. So all of the dance choreographers got together, testified in Congress in order to stop that research from going back to the DoD. We weren't told that that's who we were doing research for. So from then on, I thought, follow the money. Where's the money coming from? What do they want us to do? What are they going to do with what we think is perfectly ethical to begin with? That we didn't anticipate what they were going to do with it later. So it's getting the full information and following the money once you get out there in your wonderful careers. More stories?
That's a hard act to follow. Mine aren't that exciting, but real world application. This is one I was very excited about that Christy introduced me to. I'm using an example from Culturally Situated Design Tools, where there's actual web-based software where students can go and create simulations of cultural arts, and specifically Native American beadwork, so African American cornrow hairstyles, urban graffiti, and others using mathematical principles. And you can actually go, it's free, I believe, it's open source. You can go onto this platform and create these it's really cool. I was playing with it for like an hour once I learned about it. But at the same time, so it's understanding how the technologies work, but also that cultural application and how important this is to that specific culture. I'm sure all of you have probably multiple identities, intersectionality, and thinking about how that then interplays with technology. Can you build something in which your culture is represented and represented accurately? And two, then teach someone, it could be your neighbor, it could be anybody, teach them so they understand and learn about your own identities. But in a way that it's responsible. It's a way that you're supporting them. They really are appreciating your culture and where you're coming from. So I really love that example. And it was from 2006, so it goes a little ways back. But I mean, what really happens when you take something so traditional, so important from, we'll say, history, take an artifact, take anything, and then can deploy and create something before the better so that you can understand and learn about someone else's identities and their culture. So a little different example, but more positive, I would say.
I'm wondering if I can ask Nada and Michelle a question about. So we have these practical applications, and I am not currently teaching in the classroom, but I work with teams of students doing digital projects, creating AR apps of our public art walking tour. So I'm wondering how y'all integrate some of these things into the classes that you're teaching right now. So I presume some of these are your students too today, right?
Some of them. Yeah. So what are these applications? Can you specify?
Oh, no, I mean, well, the question is, how do we do this in the classroom? And so all of us sitting up here are experts,
I have an idea.
right? Okay,
well,
go for it.
I have a quick, so I actually teach, I created a course, it's graduate level in the School of Information it's cultural competence for information professionals. And I'm going to be redoing it this summer because some of the tools I currently use have been updated. But I want to take an exercise like this that I described. So actually, my students will be learning computer science techniques and tools, but in a cultural competence course. And they give them some reflective exercises about identities. So that's the way I'm thinking about using it and applying it and it's a nice fit.
Oh, yeah.
My other course, I'm not sure. So stay tuned.
Okay.
I have an
In
idea.
action.
Yeah,
Yeah, go for it.
So I think last 2 years ago, I was teaching a grad level course. It's user interface. And I made the theme of that course to be about gender bias. So gender bias in user experience. And there are so many things that you can talk about that. Because even when you look at the pictures, like with the design, there is a lot of, things that you can feel it's not for both genders. So the whole class, and we watch a lot of documentaries also about how sometimes, there is a discrimination on women, and the students really like it because they start to see experiments that were done about gender bias in HCI, which is human-computer interaction. And now what we are building with Michelle and the rest of the Circle team are classes to teach responsible computing. So for example, a course like computer vision, we introduce assignments where you have to classify images, and then those images are just numbers, but there is one number that doesn't represent a lot in the data set. And then you will see how the classification for that number that is missing, it's lower than the other numbers. So this is instead of also using face images to learn, the bias, when usually it doesn't represent minorities like Black people. They are not represented well in any facial technology, which is a huge problem now. And then we are telling them, okay, so this number is missing. What should we do? So the student, they have an assignment to do data augmentation and to duplicate this number more in the data, and thinking that this will fix the classification. But actually you can't do that because it's just gonna, mess up the whole classification, which tells us also that if you create a data, you can't just come later and just add more images to fix it. It has to be from the beginning. And then here we can tell the student that when you are creating the data has to be balanced. Now, how can you teach the student that the data should be balanced if the students are not diverse? Let's say that all the students are from one race, then they're going to create all the data. When they go to company and they go to work, they're going to create it from that, from the images that they are used to. And they won't think about these minority people. So an example like that is just one of how we can, apply, humanities in computer and in responsible computing classes.
That gives me an idea. Can I say one?
Yes.
See, this is how it works, the brainstorming, right? So listening to them, because we don't get a chance to talk to each other all that often as faculty and exchange ideas. So these are great events to go to. So next semester and in the fall, I'm teaching 100W, and it's specifically for our English majors. But I'm going to team teach some parts of it with Dr. Elena Salzaid, and she's the co-director of the Public Artist Resistance in San Jose project that we've been working on for a while. And we do these in-person tours where we go to several works of public art throughout downtown San Jose, and they each represent a different community. The next thing that we would like to do, because some of the buildings that this public art lives on is slated to be demolished, and there's no way to really preserve a wall of a building in person. We don't have space to do it here at San Jose State. We don't have a whole wall we could just transport, and one is 3 stories high. Yeah. So Dr. Salzaid and I were talking about how could we teach students to do digital preservation, and my other idea, because I'm super excited about stuff, I need to be yanked back, was that let's interview the artists. Let's create an AR mobile app so things pop up. Let's associate it with any newspaper articles or any blog posts or anything else online. And then let's also make this paper print swag to go with it, and then we can sell it. And then she stopped me and said, whoa. Slow your roll, Harris. We need to work at the speed of trust. And we need to talk to the artists about what do they want to do. We need to talk to the community where the public art lives, because public art is a representation of the conversation among community members in the area. And this includes graffiti artists who tag the public art. They're having a conversation with the artist when they tag it. So she said, let's teach them how to be ethical in the way that we preserve all of these cultural artifacts for these particular communities. Some of the public art is on the side of not museums, but on the side of restaurants. And on the side of a restaurant that's been a Vietnamese restaurant that's been here for 35 or 40 years and survived the pandemic. And it's called Celebration Underwater. And it's really beautiful. It's an act of resistance to show that much joy through everything that happened. And also, did you know that the largest Vietnamese community in the United States is here in San Jose? So incorporating some things like that and getting students to see it, but also me, because I was charging ahead thinking, we're going to preserve this, but I didn't stop to ask the community, do you want to preserve it? How do you want to preserve it? And if we're also not contacting the community in their own language, their own native language, we have lost from the beginning. So that gives me an idea, listening to both Michelle and Nada, about how, first of all, I need to slow my roll even more. Working at the speed of trust with communities is super important.
We kind of took it over from
Yeah, Christy, that was great. I love that so much. And I feel like that really speaks to the idea of cultural competence. And from my research with technology ethics, which is very, very small, it's just been what I've been able to find with Circle, there is this missing component of asking the communities directly for feedback and for advice and for input on what goes into products that are really developed and will affect them later, directly or indirectly. And so I guess that segues into my next question, of what are academic institutions doing so far to help prepare students to ask the right questions, think about the scenarios where they are being asked by their bosses, their CEOs, make this thing, make it as fast as you can, make it as profitable as you can in the shortest amount of time possible, without thinking about the ethical implications, because that'll just take time, and time will take away from profits. And so how do you feel academic institutions are helping to prepare students so far when thinking about responsible computing? Do you want to start?
Actually, I'll let you start.
I do have something.
I don't have an idea now.
No ideas. It's percolating. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. I have to say that in philosophy, there's an upper division course that's being taught in the fall. It's called Ethics and AI by Dr. Etienne Brown. Anybody from any discipline is invited to go, and we will help you figure out ways so that you get credit towards your degree credits. Dr. Brown is a specialist in ethics and technology. We are creating an advanced institute for ethical technologies in the College of HNA alongside what Nada and the other Circle compatriots are doing. So we'll have multiple institutes to do this. But if you want something immediately, go take this class with Dr. Brown. I believe it's asynchronous and it's all online, and he's welcoming to everyone. If you just search for Dr. Brown, you will find him. How many of y'all have registered for your fall classes already?
Be careful searching for Dr. Brown, because you may get Dr. Brown from Adobe.
Oh, no. We want Etienne Brown. He's French. He's very good. He's very practiced and rehearsed, and he'll be leading our Advanced Institute for Ethical Tech.
I have an idea.
Okay, I do. Okay.
Yeah.
Which one go?
Go.
Yeah. And then I have an idea.
I forgot your question, Christy, but I
You answer the question that you would like.
yes. Here's what I have to say about that, is that I think we all have a role to play in ensuring that we are producing bright and educated students here at San Jose. Because you all are going to go out and join the workforces around the world and make an impact. And so in the current time in academia, I feel that this space, or what we're talking about responsible computing, has in the past, I should say, lived in the computer science realm. However, AI, and I won't just say AI, but I think there have been a lot of contributing factors, what we've seen in the world the last probably 5 years, in which negative situations have occurred that now are not just with technology, but now is the point where we need to broaden. So I think every course needs to have a component of responsible computing. I think it's our responsibility, and I 100% believe that if it were not doing that, embedding it into our courses, we're doing a disservice to our students for you all going out into the workforce. I don't know if that answers the question, but I 100% believe I put that here.
Underline, double check, yeah. Not
All caps.
you had stuff.
Yeah, not.
So I'll just say what Temnet Ibru said once, that if you are doing ethical AI, but you can speak about tough topic in AI, like unethical AI at work, then you're not doing ethical AI, you're just pretending. So what we need to do is we need to teach our students that they can go and find everything in AI that is unethical, and we should not restrict their freedom of thoughts. We are building an ethical AI module that is going to be shared at the SJSU campus, and our students are the one who are making this module. And we told them that you are free to just discuss whatever topic, and they come with amazing topics. So we can't just tell them that you cannot talk about this company or you cannot talk about this topic because, it's not, gonna promote the diversity, or this is something hateful. Sometimes you need to give students the lead when you teach them. And that's what we are doing in the Circle project, that they are building modules on AI ethics, on computer vision and bias in the data. And we are teaching them also how to change the courses. So you will never see any chance for students where they are making the content of the courses. They're making the slides and the content. And we have students who are doing the errors and classifications for AI and computer vision algorithms. We have students who are modifying lectures and human-computer interaction to make it responsible human-computer interaction, because there is also a lot of interfaces and software that can be biased not only for gender or ethnicity, but sometimes it's biased for people who are using it, like elders. Sometimes the font is not meant for them, or the way of structuring the sentence that is really complicated and long for those maybe who have dyslexia and they can't read it. So the thing is, just engaging students more, and also for the faculty, start to shift, faculty development into more responsible computing, and to tell them how to teach responsible computing in courses, and how to, even like if they change one or two lectures, it'll help students to understand how they can apply what they learn in real world.
Can I add something? Can I add
Yeah. One more thing, yeah. This is going to be hashtag unpopular opinions. A little bit of dirt. Nobody's listening, right? So at SJSU, our new tagline is that we're Silicon Valley's public university, and our new president has really been fantastic in terms of getting behind and supporting what we're doing in AI. We have more than 70 faculty working on AI, generative AI, large language models in a variety of different disciplines. But one thing that, and Nada has already mentioned this, one thing I think that's very important is to not shy away from talking about those very companies who are providing us with some funds to help us think about what they're doing and diversity and ethics in and of itself. And I'm wondering in the room, how many of you would feel comfortable if you were in your dream job? Money is no object, you will never get in trouble. If you were in your dream job that had all of that, how many of you would feel comfortable bringing it up to a team lead or project manager, asking them questions if they've considered the ethical implications of what you're building? Okay, so those of you on Zoom, we had about 6 people out of, I'd say, 35 here in the room, 6 or 7. So maybe that's what we need to do, is how do you have a workshop in that? Wouldn't have to be an entire semester of how do you have productive disagreement, but how do you do true collaboration? Because it's very hard. And I can tell you that as faculty, we sit on an abundance of committees. We do not collaborate on those committees. We do exactly what y'all do. We do group work, we divide and conquer, and then sometimes we don't talk to each other. So we need some help in how do we do true collaboration as well. And maybe y'all can teach us how to do that. Maybe y'all can select a speaker series, and who do you want to hear from? What is it that you would like to get from many of them? And I forgot what else I was going to say because I was so focused on not naming those companies that I had an unpopular opinion about.
I could add to that point before we segue to Michelle.
I have one thing.
You want to say one thing?
Oh, one thing.
Yeah.
One thing.
I had one thing to comment on what Nada said. I think the resistance piece, particularly for maybe computer science or on the engineering side, is that faculty often don't feel like they're trained in this area. And I'm talking about the cultural competence, cultural humility area. And also I think that knowing how to teach it, but also being able to connect with your students around issues of diversity, equity, inclusion. So having those open and honest conversations. There are hard topics to discuss, and it could become an unsafe space, and it could be felt by faculty, by students, anyone involved in the conversation. So I think we as faculty and with students, you informing us and helping us to be better instructors, it would be great to help break down that kind of resistance in those classes. And even in my classes, I would say. But that's why we're creating these modules that then faculty can embed. And we'll also have a student action guide. So you all have resources, best practices, and items that you can take with you into the workplace and advocate, or even you just need some language to use so you know how to have those conversations in your jobs.
Yeah. Be so useful. I think for us too.
Yes. Yeah. I was going to mention the student action guide actually, because that feels like such a necessary practical component of what we do, because I feel like there's so much talk around the abstract of ethics should be used, do it when you can, try to make the world a better place. And then it's like, oh, how do you make the actual decision?
You do that.
Oh, what's step one? Oh, I don't know. And we as students look to our teachers to ask that question. And it's so contextual. It's so different in every scenario. How do you speak to a higher up who might have discrimination bias against people of color or against women, especially in STEM, especially in computer science? And we see that in universities, there is already the imbalance of people of color and women majoring in computer science. And so if they're already feeling like they are a small percentage of these classes, how do they then work up the resilience to speak up when they feel that something is already so hard to experience on a day-to-day basis? And so I'm really excited about the action guide. I'm excited about the modules. I'm excited to see what that looks like and to get feedback from students, because we really need to hear from you guys about what actually works and what makes sense and what doesn't work in certain situations, because frameworks aren't meant to be the end all be all. And so segueing now, what is something that you would really like to see from academic institutions with regards to supporting responsible computing and also just difficult conversations on technology ethics? What did you want to think? Sure.
So I think I'll just repeat what Kathy said. It's just when you are getting, fund from, any companies or any resources, you need to be able to do the work the way you think it's ethical, not the way that they tell you. That they don't control your narrative or the output. And that's the most important thing. If we have, like she said, follow the money. If you know where your money is coming from and that you are giving the chance to do what you think is ethical without them, controlling it, then this is how we can thrive as an academic institution. And we should always hold ourselves to higher standard than the industry, because we are teaching students and we are here not to make a profit, but to make a new generation of students who can make this life, a better place for everyone, and do, computer, for social good. So things that has impact. We have now projects in computer science that cares about, climate change, that's how to preserve and protect the environment. So it's not only the people, but also the world that we live in.
So as the humanities person, I'm also the arts person. So I want to throw this out there. How many of y'all have used ChatGPT? Me too. I'm a former New Yorker. I'm very direct. I forget in emails not to be so direct. So I asked ChatGPT to do a sentiment analysis for me, and it adds, "Hi, how are you? Hope you're having a good day," which I really mean in person, but sometimes I forget to do it in email. As somebody who works with artists too, I always have to remind everybody that if you want to play with ChatGPT to write a poem or a novel or anything, or you want to play with DALL-E to do any sort of arts, then I would ask you to think about it, not necessarily to condemn you for doing it, but think about what are the other arts that are being pulled from in order to make the conglomeration of the image or the written word that you're looking at. Yeah, and one thing that I would also say is that our digital media artists faculty are playing with DALL-E. They're bringing the innovation. One thing that I did see that happened just recently is that the dean of one of our colleges on LinkedIn posted something. I'm not going to tell you which one. Definitely not in the College of Humanities and Arts. And this dean was really boasting about the fact that one of the faculty, who's not an artist, used DALL-E to create a journal cover image. And I thought, wow, why didn't you just go to our graphic design students? Our students are wonderful. Or go to our digital media artists and ask them to help with that. And it was a moment of him exclaiming that, and I don't think he did it on purpose, they bypassed the artists in order to do this work. And that's okay, but I'm wondering how we can pull in our experts so that we don't bypass it. And if you're doing any writing, pulling in ChatGPT, one of the things that I would say is that what it's being trained on is whatever's on the internet. And the internet is a cesspool of terrible, terrible things. Terrible racist writing. There's also access to all kinds of great writing there. But I would have to say, if you wanted to write a poem, you would have to ask ChatGPT, are you pulling in from only the great works of literature? Because the great works of literature are deemed to be only by white men. Do we really want to remake that in ChatGPT in the world? How do we make it original? How do we put in your own words? So my end of that is, don't stop playing with it, but also don't think it's a replacement for the experts, because the experts will be able to tell you where to pull things together that make it represent your original thoughts as well, right? Not everything can be Van Gogh and Steinbeck. We don't want it to be.
I just have one thing to say, and I started with this. It's about being socially responsible. To me, that's what it's about. It's about the world we live in and being social responsible citizens, consumers, students. But everything that you're learning, there's always an ethical implication. There's always an ethical implication when there's a recording in progress. There's always an ethical implication. But just sit with that. There's always an ethical implication. There's usually always a legal implication, right? And there might also be a privacy implication. There's also probably a
copyright.
Yeah, we could go on and on.
Trademarks.
All of these elements are components that then are leading to, I lost the word. Are you being a responsible person in this world that's leading to a socially responsible world?
Okay, so we've been talking a lot about ethics and what we should be doing, right?
What shouldn't we do?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Is that the
No,
question? Oh.
we should, with all the shoulds. Shoulds is what I'm focusing on. But one thing that the last time I was at, on the panel for Circle, it was really great in terms of the conversation we were having. And then, there was an alum who just recently graduated and he got his dream job at Google in the AI division. And he arrived a little bit late and he said at the end of the hour and a half that we were chatting, but what do you do with this idea that ethics becomes the responsibility of the company and then therefore slows down innovation? You can't move fast and break things. And I had a really failure moment as a professor because I was been sitting up there for an hour and a half and I was thirsty and I wanted to stop talking. And I was like, oh my God, have you not been listening? Read the syllabus. I don't know what. And Nada asked him questions that led him towards thinking about something else. But it led me to think maybe we should have our business majors in here as well, because that's who we're sending to NVIDIA, to Google, to Cisco. And what my friends tell me who work in all of these companies is that it's the business office who's driving the innovation to sell much harder and much further, right? Christy brought this up in the beginning. So the question I have for y'all is, do you think that this gets in the way of the way you would like to innovate? Or do you think that you could be innovative through this socially responsible computing aspect? Think about it.
It gets in the way of monetization.
Oh, yeah.
It's not getting in the way of innovation.
True. Yes. So, Michelle talked about privacy and Kathy talked about ChatGPT. That made me think because usually you hear the companies that they're saying that, oh, we want to make things cheap so we can, give it as a resource to so many people. But I always think, how can you, are you going to compromise privacy with making things cheap? Because when you use this free ChatGPT or free AI, all your data is used. You are completely, signed that you will give them this data and you don't know how they're going to use it. So when the company promises us that, oh, this is affordable and this is cheap and accessible by everyone, that doesn't mean, it's good and ethical necessarily.
Chrissy, we've completely screwed up. I don't know. We're all over the place.
That's what this is for, right? This is just the train, we're all riding it. We don't know where it goes.
Those are responsible computing.
And responsible computing is so broad. I feel like one of the things with Circle that we talk about a lot is that it's really for everybody at the individual level, not the people who are programming or developing technology, but that it's really about everybody who interacts with technology too, because we're all affected by it. And so I think my next question is going to be, has there been any pushback that you have seen personally in academic institutions with regards to technology ethics and applying responsible computing?
Not yet, because we haven't released those modules. It depends, just like it's the same thing that we're saying, that you can talk about, unethical AI, but can we talk about everything that is, unethical AI in academic institution? The good thing about the academia that it still hold its place when it comes to, freedom of thoughts and expression and, freedom of thinking. So we're still holding that position comparing to the companies, kind of like employee, they lost it. And now they are doing what the company is telling them. We still have this freedom to point out at unethical things. And we are pushing now, especially at this time, we want more freedom to criticize any company or any, organization that doesn't use AI ethically, because the AI is expanding and it's changing very quickly to the point that we can't even keep up with this change in our courses. And the only thing that we have is to be able to keep the discussion going, and we need that freedom for it.
I haven't seen necessarily pushback. What I've seen is difference in the way that we can operate here at SJSU versus a more research intensive university like maybe Stanford or Berkeley, and what they're able to do. I'm on we have just released in the last few days this website called AI at SJSU. And I think I sent it to Dara today. Dara, if you want to drop it into the chat. If y'all just search AI at SJSU, it's the clearinghouse for all courses on AI at San Jose State, for all programs, all speaking engagements, all calendaring events. That might be it, the AI.
Oh.
Sorry, Dara just I think somebody just dropped it into the chat. But it also shows you what classes you might take in other, and that's just AI. That's not all technologies in the way we're talking about it. One thing is an anecdote that I realize. I'm on the mailing list for Human-Centered AI Institute at Stanford, and they send something out every week with a new white paper written by a faculty member or one of their PhD students every week. And I think it makes me want to compete with them in how quickly they're pushing things out. But then I think, wait a minute, they're actually pushing things out, telling all of us to do what they recommend. But what we're doing here at San Jose State is we are working at the speed of trust already. Y'all are working at the speed of trust already. You are already involved and engaged in the communities. You're working through innovative tasks and ideas in your classes. You're getting information from all of your faculty. I think the next step that we need at San Jose State is ensuring that we're working across disciplines. Like all the engineers, please come over and play with us in the digital media arts. We now have a faculty member who's working with AI in theater and film production. She would love to work with other people. We have 3 data science degrees at San Jose State in 3 different colleges, and they don't talk to each other. I would like to burn down the silos and those walls, please. Burning the patriarchy, burning the silos down.
Again, a hard act to follow.
My Norma Ray moment.
I just so many things you were saying, Kathy. I was thinking about not just internally at SJSU, but also with our external stakeholders. I mean, we're privileged and fortunate to be in the space of Silicon Valley. Now, I don't even live here. I live in Los Angeles. So School of Information is online. But every time I come up here, it's really eye-opening. It's a different world up here. And it's sort of this space we're in. So given that, figuring out how we can leverage the positive connections with these companies and organizations that surround us, and ensuring that they understand what responsible computing is and what that looks like in the workplace versus it's all about money. Now, I came from corporate, so I get it. But you know what? It's all about money no matter where you go, even in academia, we'll just say.
Yeah.
I wanted to point out one thing for marginalized groups, because I work with a lot of underrepresented, underserved, and as a Latina myself, I think that a lot of what stems in even academia and even in the workplace, and you all have, this is probably not new, but microaggressions, bias, all of that. And so faculty and students, we become fearful in a sense. And then we don't have those conversations. And then we run to ChatGPT. We're like go into this little silo and then we're on our gadgets and we don't talk to one another. So I almost feel like technology is also building those barriers faster than helping us break down those connections. And then also I think there's this, I personally have not faced or resistance from leadership or other faculty around this issue. But I think there are challenges where often, because we might not be that expert, so we might, I don't want to say have a fear, but it's like that saying, what you don't know, whatever that saying is. So understanding the differences and how you can support one another, even as peers, as students, and how we need to be better at being peers as faculty with one another.
Embrace not knowing what you don't know.
That's life of the mind.
Questions.
Curiosity.
Yes.
And then from here, I'm thinking about if somebody has approached this event and stayed for this whole discussion, never hearing about responsible computing before today. Thank you all for being here, by the way. What is the one recommendation that you would have to somebody who is hearing about responsible computing for the first time? Maybe they don't know the specifics of the framework being at the organizational level, but as an individual, as a person just thinking about it, what can they do today?
I would say just have a discussion with other, and what you're gonna learn, if you don't know anything about responsible computing, there is a lot to learn, and you're gonna be shocked in many ways, not only like the ethical AI in maybe education or government, but also in healthcare. You will be shocked about how, there is a lot of gap, in those areas and responsible computing. And all what we need to do is just to, our job is to educate students. And when you are doing what you learn, we're gonna support you, and we're gonna be so happy that you are changing the world into, a better place. So there is a lot to learn, and there is a lot that we're going to hear in the future, because I don't know how the AI is changing. It's, we can't keep up with it. And we have a lot of, problems that we can't fix, like the lack of diversity in CS, the resources, and how we now we need to change it to support new programs and new ideas. So maybe we are teaching you a little bit of responsible computing, but there is a lot that you can learn by your own. And whatever happened in the technology, it impacts everywhere else. And that's what we've seen now.
I think the thing that I would recommend everybody do is seek out team projects. I no longer give group projects. I give team projects, and we identify and articulate the value of collaboration. And the first thing that we do in these collaborative projects is we sit around and talk about what's your strength? What are you good at? What's your knowledge base? And then everybody needs to articulate from there, what are you missing in terms of your knowledge? And how do you know what you don't know? You only figure that out by talking to other people. So you have to set that up. If you're the person who writes the code and the other person beside you is an artist, don't dismiss them and try to figure out what is it that they know that I might not know. And by the way, I do believe that everybody who codes and programs is an artist. Coding is an art, right? So teamwork, super important.
This was a perfect question too. I was across the hall at another event for our BIPOC Become Librarians grant, and our keynote was Ray Pond, who is the president-elect for the American Library Association, which is huge. That's our large library organization. But I took a screenshot of one of his slides, and I think this speaks well even to responsible computing. So the first point is take stock. So take stock in what you have, who you are, your identities, what you can bring to the table. But along with that, take credit. So make sure that you have a voice, you take credit for what you are giving back to the community or to your peers. But then also take risks. And I'll add to that, be curious. So be open and be curious. And then take a stand. So make sure your voice is heard, seen, and also take a hand. I really appreciated that, because putting out your hand or taking a hand, if you need help or you don't know, ask someone. Ask anyone. It could be, your colleagues, your peers, your neighbor, your friend, your faculty, your advisor. And then the last piece was take a chair. So pull up a chair so that other person can have a voice at the table. So even when it comes to responsible computing, take a chair. Take two. Pull up one for you and one for your buddy that you want to introduce responsible computing to. So shout out to Ray for that.
I think I'll add to that. And then I've lived my whole career at San Jose State by this. A senior faculty member at a conference was talking about how to reframe academic publishing to accept things that are more visual, or to do blog posts, things and Twitter, when Twitter was still alive, as part of a representation of the scholarly voice. And she said at the end, do the risky thing, but always have backup. And that backup is us sitting up here. That's your person sitting next to you. That's when you get that dream job and you hit a dilemma, you have a whole alumni system at San Jose State. There's LinkedIn, to the people that you can connect back to, the student groups, which are super active. I think there was a mechanical engineering students at the last one, and she said she was the only woman in the student club. And I was sad for her for that, because she came to our circle event looking for company and a sense of belonging. So look around, see where you can find unusual alliances, do that risky thing, but make sure you've set up your backup first. That's the thing I've lived and died by sometimes, but I've resurrected. Yeah.
Did we go through everything?
I think we did, honestly. So at this point, I feel like we could take a little break and then come back for Q&A if we want to stretch our legs for 5 minutes.
Or we can do Q&A now. Let's just
Do you want to do Q&A now?
Are there any comments in the Zoom we should address first?
Yeah.
We are going to.
So I saw there's a lot of chats in there.
I think they were talking to each other.
Oh,
Dara, were there any questions in the webinar chat?
or comments?
Yeah.
Hi, Catherine. Yeah, so Dara's not here. She had to leave for like a bit. But then, yeah, no questions on the chat yet. Nothing for the panelists. We are monitoring the Q&A tab.
Okay. From the audience, yeah, right? Do y'all have any questions?
I have a question for you.
We have one here.
Oh, there's a hand.
Go ahead. Do it. Claim your space. Do it.
How can I brand myself online without the real world assuming I'm biased to my identity?
So the question was, how do I brand myself online
Without being biased towards myself?
without being biased towards my own identity?
Yeah, I feel like as a person, like it's so cliche now, but now that I'm finding my place, these recruiters are like, how do you conceptualize that in your real life? They're lost and I'm lost. Like, I wonder why I didn't get the job. I'm just forgetting about myself.
So the question continued. The person asked the context of myself being in a job interview and realizing that makes so much of my viewpoint, my worldview. Would you say?
I feel like the way I brand myself, the recruiters feel like, oh, can you push upon that? I'm like, I did, but then now they're like, oh, we don't really want you to be a middleman. Because I feel like I've been a middleman for my jobs a lot. Now that I go in there, I look like a middleman person. I don't want to do that.
Oh, you want to be the leader position. Yeah.
But I don't want to shoot too high because I just graduated this summer, so I can't do that.
Wait, why don't you want to shoot too high?
Yeah, you can.
There's no openings. Job market.
Just do it.
They're oh, you would just get the job, and I kind of don't want to be paid by commission anymore. It's not working anymore. I need to make a living.
Are you asking if you want to leverage your first generation college student status and your own identity? So,
To say that in a portfolio, stand out. Because when I show my work, they're like, it looks too similar as others.
Oh, so you want to highlight your own diversity and your own differences.
I think you brought up a culture thing. I brought that up too. And they're like, oh, you're Vietnamese Asian American, you just do computer science. I'm like, no, I'm more media based. And we get lost a lot.
I have something to say about that.
Good.
Maybe you don't want to be there. I'm just being frank.
Yeah, I just feel like this is my hour.
Maybe it's a checkbox.
Yeah, a lot of organizations and companies, it's sad to say, but still it's a checkbox, and they have their own view, and they will put all of us in that little box and say check.
When I did my portfolio, my old class, my teacher, I don't want any names, but he was just very dismissive on how my passion was my mental health, my family. It was just very not.
Mental health and family are very important. I would say number one.
When I he didn't understand what my passion was.
Maybe reframing. Maybe just you have to reframe your story.
Maybe.
But be you. Don't let anybody change who you are. Do you, as I heard earlier, and
Step
Someone-
into your power.
Yeah, somebody will appreciate that. And that person that does is someone that sees you for you and what you can bring to the table.
Don't market the understand that too.
And I would also say, and I think Kathy and I are here, where we're like, yeah, what, go for it. Don't let anybody, if somebody tries to tell me negative or opposite, that just fuels me more. It doesn't make me angry, it just motivates me more.
Yeah.
So use that as motivation. And I'd be happy to look at your materials if you want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is somewhere I see some people I've reviewed some applications for different things that people have obviously used ChatGPT for, and this is where ChatGPT really fails because how is it going to capture you, a woman, Vietnamese American, first gen college student? And I know. So your uniqueness in the perspective that comes out in your work, I'd say one thing, an exercise to do, and this goes with responsible computing as well, is sit down and do a values check. What do you value in terms of your life and in terms of the job that you would like to seek? And this shouldn't be something that'll take you 3 minutes. There's a whole workshop that I do with people about what's the value that comes out of this? What are you deploying? What's the future of this, not just the immediacy of it? And then I also keep my own value statement at the forefront of every decision I make. And when I finished that workshop about values, the thing that was in the center for me, I just made a mess on a whiteboard of like, what do I value in terms of my career at San Jose State, public university, first generation students working with diverse populations, their curiosity, that their families are behind them and that they're really invested in them, and that they work so much so they have a lot of work-life experience. And then in the end, what I found is that the common theme running through all of it was public good. So every decision I make has to work towards that primary value of public good. Am I serving public good? Now, this doesn't necessarily mean which potato chip I'm getting in the supermarket. I don't. The organic or the one, should I just make my own? Yeah. You gotta have some Pringles sometimes. And the thing is that the value always shifts and change as you grow as a person. And so if you're looking at jobs, and this is for everybody, and you've got that value, that core set for you that you will not let somebody undermine, even though you want a job so badly, think about, well, how could this serve the values that and work as a stepping stone towards the next job that I would like to get. The beautiful thing about everybody in this room and in tech is that in tech, usually employees stay for only 1 to 3 years. As faculty, I'm 20 years here at San Jose State. We don't move around that much. It's also because we get to play a lot in a lot of different ways. Because I was not talking to the iSchool or computer scientists in my first year that I was here. It changed a little bit, but think about that too as well. That's in your own career. Some things are just going to be stepping stones. And I hate to say it, but maybe NVIDIA, Google, and Adobe are stepping stones to something, to a startup, to something else. And that's not to hate on those companies, but to think about what is it that you value. And also for me, I've stayed at San Jose State because my other value is stability. I'm first generation college student, came through a community college. Neither of my parents, they went to vocational school. So it's very important for me to have health insurance, to have a stable paycheck that I know how much I'm getting every month so that I can pay my rent, and to live in a rent controlled apartment that I've been in for 20 years. Right. So think about those kinds of things as you're thinking about where you want to go and do. Otherwise, I'm not special. Anyway.
We're all special. Just keep swimming. Yes, keep swimming. You are.
That question brings up an interesting thought of how does somebody approach the topic of ethics in computing when so many people are used to performative topics or talks about wanting to do well, be ethical, and how can we take steps as individuals, especially as students starting to think about how they would want to approach this in their own careers? What is a suggestion that you have for them in how to approach that topic, I think? Does that make sense? Yeah.
So just to clarify, this is not an invitation for you to go and yell at your boss or company and get fired. You don't have to talk if you are afraid and that you're losing your job and then you need to, pay your rent. That's not what we're saying. But we want you to have this awareness when you are working. And if you think that things are going very severe and ethically, just move around and see other options. And another one is, I'm going to tell you the advice that my advisor told me when I came here. So when I came here, I came from a different country, totally different culture, and I found myself different. I do, look different. I dress differently. And my advisor, the first thing she told me is have friends. But it's really hard for you to do anything without supporting community. And wherever you are, even for us as academia, we try to have friends, and that's why we collaborate together, because you can't do the work alone. And then even in your company, have supporting system, have people that you share with them your idea and you run it by them before, you start, express it loudly.
I have nothing.
I remember what I was going to say. How many of you have ever worked as a student assistant? Has anybody done it? So one thing, when I'm talking about teams and being on teams with a bunch of different kinds of disciplines, that we are hiring through the Learning Aligned Employment Program. There's an ad on Handshake. It's for the H&A Public Fellows. And right now we need marketing and communications students, and we need data scientists. And we're going to hire a cluster of those every semester. And you'll meet with a mentor every week to talk about the different projects and different faculty that you will work with. And that means that you would get that experience immediately. Now, how many of you have been on Handshake? Handshake. Okay.
Everyone.
Yeah, that's really good. So if you go look up Public Fellows with H&A, then submit your application if you're LAEP certified, and then it gives you an opportunity to do this work while you're in school. And what I'm very upfront about this, LAEP students get paid up to $3,000 per semester. So you could be hired for summer, fall, and winter and make a little bank for the work that you're doing. So you're not volunteering. And if somebody ever says to you, because they say this to artists a lot, come work with us for free, it'll look good on your resume or in your portfolio. Do not do that. Make them pay you, even if it's nominal. All right. Okay.
No, get that dough. Get that bread. Anything right now?
Do we have any other questions from our audience?
I have a question for the audience.
Okay.
Oh. And maybe we can get a few volunteers here. Whether it's the first time you've heard about responsible computing or not, what does responsible computing mean to you? It's a loaded question.
Without being graded.
Yeah, no grades, nothing. Any volunteers?
No judgment.
What does responsible computing mean to you? Anyone?
We know that trick that when you look down, we're going to call on you.
The person that works majored in advertising, PR, and journalism, I say just stick to your own understanding, but be open to hearing others. Make it uncomfortable. That's what you learned.
So make it uncomfortable.
I like that.
I like that.
Get comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Yeah, get comfortable with being uncomfortable.
If you're comfortable, you're not trying hard enough.
It for sure makes the classroom more open and talkative. Like I did that for my MCOM 100W class, and with that, everyone was talking about George Floyd and the body news, and with that, I was able to get a recommendation letter and help the newspapers as well write articles that made me realize I do love this. Still learning it as I go.
Well, and that's how we all learn. I think even as faculty, like it's
And
putting yourself out there too.
We have a contribution from our online participants. Ray Johnson says responsible development, designing for accessibility at all stage, web accessibility for me especially.
I love that. I'll repeat it. Responsible development, designing for accessibility at all stages, and web accessibility for me especially.
we can do a word cloud or something.
Yeah.
So speaking about George Floyd, because you gave an example, actually, this is also one of the things that we have in the computer vision module, because there were cases where Black people were arrested for things they didn't know because they were classified. You know, the facial classification had an error, and it marked them that the people who did the crime, and then the police, they went and they arrested them and they had nothing to do with it.
That happened to me.
Yeah. I think here's another example as the storyteller again. That's me. There are some faculty on campus already, and they said this in our AI cluster. The city of San Jose is now using AI to identify unhoused people living in RVs on certain streets.
So in LA too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Some of our faculty in 2018 suggested using AI in a self-driving car to go around, not to identify the unhoused population, but to identify potholes on streets so the city of San Jose could fix them. So now Mayor Mahan, who is a great partner of San Jose State, is suggesting to use this along with an advisory board for the unhoused population to get rid of urban blight and to create what they're calling, quote unquote, a clean, vibrant downtown San Jose. So that's an example of how our faculty were already and always doing this work in 2018 for civic good, and that now they're not involved in these conversations. And I bet they would have brought on board students as well as the San Jose State point of view about using AI in these particular situations. Because when you move people away in unhoused situations, they're going to go someplace else.
Mm-hmm.
Where are they going to go, and how can we help solve that?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Wouldn't you want to be part of that solution and thinking about the future of all of these people?
I'm not qualified to get that work.
I just want to check. Do we have any more questions in the chat? Don't think so.
No further questions.
Okay. Do we have any questions here in the audience? Yeah.
I wanted to know, like, how can we use social media very wisely by not, not violating, by not letting anybody else violate our privacy?
The question was, how do we use social media in a way that doesn't violate our privacy? Is that correct? Great.
Because a lot of data is taken.
Yes.
Because a lot of data is taken with or without our permissions, and whether we know where the settings are and how much data we are giving to these companies.
I was going to suggest that with there's already. Yeah.
Yeah.
So once you have your data on the social media, then it's not private anymore.
Yeah.
And it can be used by anyone. In fact, that Vic and I, there's a funny story that we were discussing today, the course that we want to do in the workshop. And he was like, Nada, your picture is in the website, but this is not you. And I went there and I found another person with the same name who's wearing a hijab, but she's not me. So, and she is also doing computer science. So I think that's the thing. So they just go into the website, they Google my name, and they found a picture and they're using it. So you can't really, control anything you put on the social media. And it's not only that it's used by other users, but it's also used by the companies.
I may be making this up, but I think it's correct. I think there is already a course in journalism and mass communications on the ethics of social media, and also identifying for yourself ethical safety in terms of your own identity. If it's not there, professional and technical writing in the English department also does a course like this. before they send students out. And so we already have courses on the books. It's just a matter of finding them if you wanted to take one. I think we're also for the Institute for Ethical Technologies, we're trying to put together 1-unit courses for the intercession about these very things. Like, how do we protect ourselves and our families when we're looking at Blue Sky, Twitter, Snapchat, Facebook? Although y'all don't use Facebook anymore, do you?
Instagram.
You're on it because your parents are on it?
I don't think they add their parents.
Don't add your parents.
Like a different number.
Yeah.
Text and be like, did you have for mom and dad to see their kids? And like, okay.
So some of the questions that's a great question. Some of the questions you ask, it's a matter of, there's a class for that, and then you can get credit for it. If you can't find it, you should email one of us. If we don't know, we know somebody who knows. Yeah.
And for faculty who are interested in this issue, we have a data privacy module that we'll be sharing that you can drop right in with the lectures and readings and all of that good stuff.
So for faculty, we're creating one of our mini modules is on data privacy. So faculty can then embed into their courses. I have a whole lot to say about social media, though I'm all over it. But my husband, personal story, seemed to think like there's nothing out there on him. And I was like, let me just go Google your name and let me show you how much stuff there is about you. And he's never been on social media. Now he's on social media because it was like pointless. He was already out there and stuff was whoever put it on websites. So I think with social media and with the internet, it's being able to vet it and being able to, if you find, or if there is like the story you told, Nada, being able to get that taken down or removed. I've been hacked on social media. I have an identity, whole other person. So I have that on my credit so nobody can, like, it's scary. I think, like we always say, like LinkedIn for professional purposes, but then there's a lot of like, I think personal and safety concerns too. I take Uber, Lyft. How many of you take Uber and Lyft? I do not use my real name nor my real address. They do not pick me up near my home and they do not know my name because I've had somebody from one of the ride shares look me up on social media and come to my house. So it's scary. Yeah, just protections.
I have read the terms of service on every time you open a new app or sign up one.
Sign agreement.
Yeah. You just scroll and click, me too.
Yeah.
And then I go into the settings of all the mobile apps I have and turn off that they can use my data for any sort of research. But I also know that they're already also taking data. State of California does have legislation that's international. So all of the European websites had to change the way they interacted with you if you have an address in the state of California, that they're not supposed to sell your privacy. But the general rule is that if it's online, you lose control of it. Yeah. So
I have a question.
Or comment question.
Hi. I actually just turned 61. And so in terms of privacy, it's a huge issue. Like right when I turned 60, I started getting all of these, scam things. And I get about 2 to 3 calls a day from people saying that I have to complete my loan applications and things like that. And I'm just wondering what is being done at SJSU to address not just privacy, but accessibility for older students and for students who want to help their elders. Just curious as to what is being put together for that, because it's terrifying.
I think, well, in terms of accessibility at the course level, there's a requirement that every faculty uses our accessibility platforms and the templates. And we also have an accessibility center. And I'm not sure that that's what you're asking about, though. Is that it? Are you looking from further, like more scholarly research aspects?
Well, it's a combination because I think, like for somebody like me who doesn't have the tech background, but I'm in the graduate program for MLIS. I believe that a lot of people are going back to school later. And so it's like running into a brick wall with a lot of the information and the technology. And once you stop at one level, you can't get in. So I'm just wondering about that. It's actually two questions, but the privacy thing, because you were just talking about that, is even more pressing because like my cousin was scammed out of $250,000 of her retirement. So I just think it would be really great to have some kind of a course for all students in that so that they can actually help their elders as well as any older students that are coming in.
That might be a great thing for the Digital Humanities Center to do. Because they're working with communities. Okay, I'm sorry.
In the public libraries.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, we're just saying, sorry. The question is really about how we might be able to foster an accessibility course or workshop so that people can work with their own families and their own elders. And the new Digital Humanities Center is now partnered with the San Jose Public Library. Mm-hmm. And we did a lot of listening sessions where we tried to understand what does the community want from the Digital Humanities Center. And the first thing the community said was, we don't really know what Digital Humanities is. So first thing, can you change the name? We're like, okay, yeah. But a lot of them were about how can we help our families because our elders are important to us. And we want to do things like preserve their voices, preserve their languages. And so we're working through some of that with the DHC. It's going to take about another year, especially because it's in the library and we're still looking for funding resources to do it. But that's a great idea to create a workshop instead of a semester-long class or maybe an intersession class on these kinds of things. And it would be great to work with the iSchool on those kinds of things and also our relationship we have with the San Jose Public Library, since it's so unique in the United States.
Yeah, and I think a lot of organizations throughout a lot of organizations that work with seniors would be interested in partnering.
And I think this is why the humanities and the library now are partnering with so many programs, because this is where, accessibilities can, play an important role for to support students in the classroom, especially for those who are elders or they are dyslexic or they have autism. This is where the library can, support. Mm-hmm.
And also speaking to that this can be offered from the institution itself, not just students getting together with an organization or a club, not just one faculty person bringing this because it's something that their students have requested, but having it at the academic level sounds really helpful. I think there was one hand raised in the audience. If there are other questions here. No? Are there any questions in the chat?
No questions so far, but Dara and I, we do have an announcement. But once the questions are done.
Okay, we have an announcement after Q&A session is done. At this point, I guess the last question I would have is maybe what is a kind of dream partnership that you would want to see happen with regards to responsible computing with other departments working together? Something that feels very like ideal world, what's possible that could be done to make projects on responsible computing for people, and what could that look like?
Want to start?
If you
so it's just like the library, we have the library and everyone is interested in the library, faculty, students, staff. And I hope one day we have an AI project that helps all of us and across all the departments where all of us can, contribute to it and, maybe adjust it so it can fit all our needs in our courses. Hopefully, we have a big project like that.
I think the thing for me is that we're already doing this work in our silos. And the biggest thing for me is being able to leap across those. And that means it boils down to resources and funding. It's very, very difficult to get a interdisciplinary course because each department gets money for every student who's in a seat. And then that funds that department for the following years. So if you have a course that's being taught by faculty, then they have to divide up the money that comes in. And since we're in a severe budget crisis at San Jose State, we were $35 million in the hole, not because of anything any of us up here did. We're having to see budget cuts across the way. So one of the things that I would like to say is all of that infrastructure that's underneath, as students say, we would like team talk courses and things like that. Know that we're working on it. Know that faculty are here and we want it. But some of the higher education infrastructure and the limitations for who gets what money, it's really what's causing some of these limitations. And then the faculty honestly end up working for free. And we just don't want that to happen. We don't want you to work for free. We want to give you money. We don't want to do volunteering anything. We want things officially on the books. So that's what I'm here to do. Every president who's come in has said, we will make team teaching possible. Did I say I've been here 20 years? 19 at the end of May. So that means we're still working on it. And I'm always hopeful, or I would not be here. Just a little cynicism.
I think, or at least the impetus behind Circle, and Circle is a great, I don't want to call it a baby, but it's a great smaller model that if that can be grown and developed and expanded across SJSU and then other universities replicate it, I don't know what it would look like. And I think there's going to be a lot of challenges or barriers to overcome. But I'm hopeful.
We're in it. We're here.
Yeah, it's not going anywhere. But I just don't know what that would look like in a real world sense. But I think Circle's starting. I mean, we're trying. We're doing what we can, and we're already collaborating. I mean, 3 different represented here, right? Different colleges, different departments. So yeah, it's a start.
How about some kind of integration with CPTV?
We do have some already. Yeah.
Well, I also want to let you know that we are offering computer vision course at the CS department. And this time we're going to use the data sets and the assignments with the course that we have. So you will learn responsible computing in computer vision. So,
Swag. Oh, don't forget. No, when we're done. Oh,
well, I think
have another meeting. Oh, another celebration. Yeah, we're done.
Do we have any other final questions?
Oh, there's an announcement. Right?
I think we're good. So then, Dara and Vic, do you want to make your announcement and then we will?
Yes. First, just to add on to what Nada mentioned. So Nada and we have developed the Responsible HCI course as well, so which we will also offer. And again, it's a flex course. One of the goals of the whole Circle grant was to prepare like this 10 modules with some flex modules. So any faculty can borrow our course material, add those specific to their own departments, and then just teach it in their class. So we would be happy to share all the materials which we have developed, at least those 10 courses, and they could develop their own 6 modules and then go out and teach their students. I think that's the way we were envisioning it, that interdisciplinary collaboration where we will put some of the core modules from both responsible and computer science perspectives, and then faculty can develop them as they see fit in their own areas. So again, so we would really love that. And we also have the responsible computing ethical AI module, which I'll be incorporating in my course. Nada, I'm sure she's incorporating in her course as well. And the announcement which we are about to make was about the Idea Institute on AI. So Dara and we are co-chairing that institute. And one of our goals, again, is AI outreach and reaching out to those siloed professions and domains, which feels like they don't have enough exposure to AI education. So here, as part of this institute, we are reaching out mostly to LIS students and LIS professionals. And we do have some seats which we bought for our SJSU RAs and students. So if you're part of the Circle team, or if you're even an SJSU student, reach out to us and we could get you a seat at the institute. It will be held virtually at the end of this month. And we would very much like our students to be able to attend that and take part in it. And I will drop the link here again. I dropped it once before, but I'll also drop the link in the chat.
Show captions.
That's amazing.
Dara, do you have anything to add?
I just wanted to say that how delighted I am to have had everyone join us today. And, the Circle team knows that I like to talk in platitudes, but one of my favorites always is if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And I can't think of a better team of people to go far together with than the folks we've had talking today. Our amazing students. So much of the credit for all the things we've done at Circle belongs to these students. They are just absolutely incredible. Christy, our moderator, is one of our students. We've had Penn here. I know Tanya and I think Aditya are there. So if you see them, congratulate them, thank them for all their hard work. And I see one hand raised amongst our attendees here online. So that would be Carrie.
Yeah. Dara, I have to jet.
Yes. Thank you so much for joining us, Kathy.
Thanks, Kathy.
Thank you, guys.
But don't leave yet. We have goodies for you.
Oh,
We have
swag.
Wow. Swag. Oh, be careful.
Oh, hand was raised as mistake, Carrie said.
It was a mistake. So.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a hand.
Oh, it was a mistake.
Oh,
So then
I just wanted to save the chat. Sorry.
Great. All right. So I think I will end the online portion of this. Thank you all for taking the time to join us today. I hope this was useful. We're really excited to keep bringing conversations and resources to this campus. Thank you all again.
thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you for your time and patience.
Make sure you get some swag on the way out.
What swag you have?
Courtesy of the iSchool. Bye. It's just nice
Bye,
to see you.
Michelle. Bye, Nada.